Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. And it's time for my bi weekly stream on Fridays at around noon, where I continue to work on my teaser trailer. And in this stream, I'm going to be doing some coloring, getting some coloring done. Yeah, getting some coloring done. Now, to start off, how has everyone been? What is up with you guys? I So, right now, I'm just getting some coloring done. Uh, I was gonna say something. I kind of forgot it. It's okay. Now, for for this character, mm, let's see. Well, for his fur, at least, I can give him like a dark brown color. I may want to go a bit darker because that looks. No, it needs to be lighter. Uh-oh. I think the color selector crashed. Now that is a nice color. I'll work with this. Now, as for the hair, what would be a good color? I think I should, for the hair, I should probably just go like a, maybe not a black, but like a, just like a paler color. Just so the viewer can differentiate. Hmm. Good. Okay, so the reason why it's not filling is sometimes when you animate, or rather when you're drawing the sort of final line art, there may be like a gap or something to where the object isn't fully closed. So then what I end up doing usually is I will actually hide certain layers so then I can zero in and focus on them. And then later I can fill the object. So then issues like that won't happen anymore. Well, so then I can just color the object, is what I should properly say. So right now I'm going to look at the head. I'll look at the arm later. Uh-huh, I see. I should probably use the paint behind feature. Actually, yeah, let me use the... sometimes I do forget that the fluid brush does have different like abilities and things they can do like this, which is always nice when you remember them. Me, I usually don't remember them. I know that that's kind of horrible, but I mean, hey, as long as I know it some of the time, or at least remember it some of the time. Now, I will say I haven't tried the fill setting. I'll definitely have to try it. Now, just from what I've noticed, I am actually gonna have to move some of these objects. Like when I was playing back through what I'd animated, I saw that some of it came off as clipped or too pushed over. Even though this is an object, a character that's going to be in the background, I still want to. What's the proper word? I still want it to have a presentable look to it. I still want it to look good. So I am going to have to go back in a few of my scenes and like shift things to the left because in certain in between frames the head looks disconnected from the neck, or you see more of the neck than what I want you to see. Before I do anything, I am going to fill the arm just because I am pretty sure that it needs it. Now I just need to find out where it's choppy. Choppy, disconnected. I'll find the proper term later. So anyway, I will ask you guys, how have your weeks been? You know, it's Friday, it's the end of the week. Like, after this, everyone should be home free. At least I hope so. Now, I will say, I still haven't been watching much Code Lyoko. I've just been working on this. If I'm not working on this, I'm probably just Like if I haven't been working on this teaser trailer, then I've been like sleeping, or I've been like playing. Now I'm not gonna lie, I have been playing video games, but I haven't really been playing a lot of video games. I've mostly been spending my time on this. There's some backgrounds I have to plan and account for that are coming along nicely. Like you'll see if I were to go to scene which scene is that? If I were to go to scene one has a lot of sweeping shots. Actually, I can show you in a minute once I finish coloring this arm, but I want to finish this first before I show you guys. Okay, I see it now. It's right there. Oh yeah, speaking of stuff I've been working on, how are you guys liking my new animation tips and tricks video? I haven't really made many of them because I just don't know everything. And in order to make a tips and tricks video, I have to know stuff. One of the difficult things that I have is that a lot of my art, a lot of the things that I do in art, it just comes second nature to me. So, like, I just automatically think, okay, I need to clear my cache, or okay, I need to do XYZ. So, I just automatically do it, which is kind of bad. But whenever I like remember something or I think of it, I always try to like get it out there. Like if I like what I did with my animation tips and tricks. Like if I think of something and say like, oh, that's a good idea, I'll be sure to make a video on it. Like I try to make a video on it. And what I'll do is I might like talk about it real quick in hmm, hold on a minute. If I think about it, I'll make a video on it. That's what I was trying to say. If I think about it, I'll make a video on it. Now I will say, and this is another tangent, like I'm just going off topic. After I finish this arm, I gotta show you guys what I have planned for the scene one's background. Um, but anyway, I will say that drawing, yeah, there's no good or nice way to say this, but sadly, I am not a furry artist, okay? I don't have much experience drawing animal people, which I guess is kind of a bad thing. Like, a lot of people have this misconception, even artists themselves, that sometimes they think they need to be good at everything. I mean, I'm one to talk. I call myself a jack of all trades. And I mean, I kind of am because I have to be. But to go back to my point, a lot of artists think that they need to be able to draw everything and be good at everything. When there are artists who exist that have a niche or have something that they're really good at or choose to focus on, and that's okay too. It's okay to have a niche. Like my concern is that I have this world where magic exists and there are fantasy races. Essentially what happened, and I talked about this in other streams and other videos, is that after this apocalyptic event called the Cascade, magic came back to the world. And so there were some people who couldn't outrun the destruction or couldn't outrun the magic. They couldn't get into like bunkers or underwater or anything like that. So what happened is the raw and direct exposure to magic caused them to reveal their true nature or become attuned to what they are on the inside. And so people became elves, they became orcs, beastmen, they became different creatures like that. And so that's why in this show you're gonna have beastmen, beastkin, what else? Elves, orcs. I also have some original fantasy races too that I'm thinking about implementing. So since I'm actually talking about a wolf beastman, I can tell you guys a bit about the beastman race and the beastkin. So beastmen are the anthropomorphic animal creatures. Like they look like bipedal animals. They can be wolves, cats, foxes, shark people, lizard people. They can be pretty much any type of animal, even some insects, in fact, which is kind of strange, but it's also going to be fun for me to draw and work on that. Now, beastkin, they are akin to beasts, but they're not full beasts. Like if a beastman and an elf or a beastman and a human have a child together, then that child will be a beastkin. They're essentially a humanoid creature with animal features. So like that's where you're gonna have cat girls and dog boys and different races like that. Don't worry. I can already sense your judgment through the stream. Anyway, one of the main characters is a beastkin. Um, both of his parents, well, one of his parents is a spider beastman, and then his other parent is sort of like this humanoid creature. The main character's name is Nancy. He is a spider beastkin. He essentially has like he still has two eyes, but the way his pupils appear as though he may have like two retinas. And he also has these little extra spider-like appendages that come out of the bottom of his spine. Like, imagine he has two tails, but instead of tails, they're like small vestigial spider arms, and it allows him to. He can't really use them effectively. They're more so to like give him some extra height, or like they do certain things to denote like his mood or his behavior at a given time. Like I didn't really plan much, which now that I mention it sounds kind of bad. But like I would with him, his design came first, not really how he functioned. Which even when I say that alone, that still sounds kind of bad because like I really should have dedicated more time to him and how he lives. I was more so concerned about his personal story, but I can always add like small little habits and things that he does. But Nancy, one of the main characters, he's a beastkin, and one of his parents is a beastman. And also, it's actually really easy to sort of denote and identify a beastman's subrace. Like, if you have one beastman who's a tiger and another beastman who's like a gorilla, they have a kid. It's sort of like a 50-50 where that child will either be a beastman, will either be a gorilla or a tiger. So it's pretty much a 50-50 split. It works like real life genetics. Now, with cat beastmen, feline beastmen, they have some more leniency and mixed breeding. Like if a lion and a tiger had a child, then it would be like a liger or a Tian and stuff like that. But usually, if there's no species, if there's no species common ground, then pretty much you're gonna get like it's either a 50-50 chance if the child's gonna look like the mother or the father. Um, with beast kin, what happens with them is usually when a beastman parent gets with a another humanoid parent, their child will take on their animal child's characteristics. So they may have eyes, or they may have hairy ears, they may have a tail, they may have like a second pair of ears that are like cat ears or dog ears, stuff like that. It's different, but usually that child is going to take on the aspects of their beast parent mother. And then if their other parent was like an elf or something or a human, then their child is going to have like that. If their other parent was an elf, then they're going to be taller on average. If their other parent was a human, they may be bulkier. If their other parent was an orc, then they may have like a slight greenish tint to their skin. I mean, it's pretty much like genetics in our world where, you know, if you have a black parent and a white parent, then that child's gonna, more than likely, that child's gonna come out like light skin. And I'm actually excited to explore sort of the issues that can come about from a world like this. Like, I do want it to be, I do want this world to be grounded. I'm not trying to make, I'm not trying to have allegory because with allegory, things can get a bit messy when you're making a world. Like, I don't want to tackle modern issues in my show. This is a story about potential, what we can become. So it wouldn't make much sense to have real world allegory or real world sort of tie ins like that to this fantasy world where pretty much everyone is equal. You know, different issues, I suppose. I'd have to say that one of the hardest things for me, especially one of the hardest things that's going to be for me to do, is definitely in making this a completely original world. Like, a lot of what we know and understand is that Tolkien is essentially the father of fantasy. Like practically everything that is fantasy can trace something that was inspired by Tolkien. Like from Dark Souls to Dungeons and Dragons. I think Dragonlance. I'm not informed on Dragonlance. I don't know much about it. But I think even Dragonlance, which is very old, was inspired by Tolkien as well. And hmm, even me comparing my work, I'm not, it sounds kind of bad. I'm not trying to come off as if I am comparing my work to Tolkien. Like, Tolkien is a genius. I love his, um, I love Lord of the Rings. I even love The Hobbit. Like, and I know that people don't hate The Hobbit, but they do sort of give The Hobbit a hard time. But I even love The Hobbit. Like, so I'm not trying to compare my work to Tolkien, but I do know that eventually there is gonna come a time where people may say, like, oh, your work is inspired by Tolkien. Like, oh, you took a lot of inspiration from Tolkien. And that's sort of a sad thing when it comes to design and creation is when it comes to character design, setting design, other design aspects like that, what you, my viewers, have to understand is that people will always draw inspiration from something. Like, there are many conscious and subconscious things that goes in a writer's and an artist's mind that sort of fuels why or how they do something like they do it. So I mean, and I'm not a perfect person. I already know that subconsciously I'm probably going to put a lot of, maybe not a lot of Tolkien stuff, but Tolkien is going to be a subconscious influence on my work and what I create. Not just that, but because of the pure nature of what I'm trying to create, a science fantasy, there are going to be many things that I sort of draw inspiration from. Like, I'm probably going to draw inspiration from Cyberpunk. I'm probably going to draw inspiration from Shadowrun, because Shadowrun is actually probably the most, if not the second. I forgot what I was about to say. Shadowrun is another science fantasy property that blends magic and technology, where it's essentially cyberpunk. Shadowrun is essentially cyberpunk with orcs, elves, and magic. And that's no disrespect to Shadowrun as a property, as a tabletop role playing game, or as a general form of media. Like Shadowrun is really good. People love Shadowrun to this day. And I'm gonna be honest, like the most I know about Shadowrun is I saw like the trilogy on sale on PS4. I don't I haven't read any of the source books. I haven't seen any lore videos on YouTube, but I did read the wiki because I was sort of inspired by it. Um, as you guys may know, I've mentioned it, I touched on it in previous streams, but I do play D&D, and I actually DM a game for some friends of mine. And so I was talking about Cyberpunk and Vampire the Masquerade with one of my friends, and he said, "Oh, like why don't you just like reflavor D&D into Cyberpunk?" And I'm like, dude, that's gonna be hard because it's not a one-to-one comparison. You can't really do that." And he kept pushing the issue, but like, and so like that was when I decided to look up Shadowrun, and I'm like, like this is pretty interesting. I really only read the wikis though. Like I'm being truthful about that. Like I really only read the wikis of Shadowrun, and then I saw it in the PlayStation Store. But other than that, I haven't really delved too deep into Shadowrun. All I know is that that it's a science fantasy, so it blends magic and technology. But I do think that in but I do think that in perhaps if I looked more into Shadowrun, I could sort of get a feel or a somewhat understanding on science fantasy in general. So then that could help me make my show. Like, and one of the things that I am afraid of is plagiarism. And really, that comes from my time in school. Like, in a lot of, like, plagiarism is something that was really cracked down on. And I think plagiarism really became a thing once the internet became a thing. And once using the internet as a resource was really pushed in the early 2000s, because it's like using the internet also made it easier for people to cheat and copy others' works. So it's really just that worry that I don't want to. Hmm, Again, it's really that worry that I don't want to come off as like a cheater or someone who steals ideas. Like that's not me. That's not what I want to do. Um, what was I talking about again? So I mean, I do actually think that yes, looking at Shadowrun would help me in my sort of idea forming and planning for Witches 13 because they are two somewhat similar, that they are two forms that are sort of come from the same DNA, and the DNA being of science fantasy. The one issue I have with Shadowrun, though, is that it is dystopian. It talks about the sort of it goes into detail about being a cruel world and people becoming mercenaries in order to make ends meet. And so Witches 13 is actually gonna be the direct opposite of that. Like my show isn't about making ends meet. It's about potential. It's about possibility. It's about pretty much everyone having an equal shot and an equal chance at stuff. Mm. And so I guess I can really explore those themes and what I want to express through my characters, because this is going to be something that, while science fantasy exists, there hasn't been much of a focus on it. People don't really look at science fantasy. People look at fantasy. People people love Lord of the Rings. People love Dragon's Blood. People love other fantasy shows, and people love sci-fi. Star Trek has had stands, not fans, stands for like decades. And people love Star Wars, maybe not in these recent years, but people love Star Wars. And so, and like, I do believe that sci-fi does sort of have that otherworldliness about it, because Star Trek and sci-fi, it is about potential. It is about, things being maybe not perfect, but human society and life in general having this sort of love for knowledge, love for learning and discovery. And I mean, I'm not an expert on Star Trek, but of course, I'm not an expert on Star Trek. Like, I don't know everything, but that is a big theme about Star Trek in general, is loving, is about like human potential and fascination and exploration. Like, those are big things in Star Trek and sci-fi in general. And then with fantasy, it's all about this otherworldliness and this beauty and things outside of yourself, with magic and human ingenuity. And it's not like science fantasy doesn't exist. I actually think that the most common science fantasy that really everyone sort of knows, or at least knows the existence of, is steampunk. Steampunk actually has a really big community. I think I think a lot of people love steampunk. I'm not even gonna say I think. I know that a lot of people love steampunk. Like, look at look at the Dishonored look at Dishonored 1 and 2. You have the you have Dishonored, you have what's it called? It's that game with like the big daddies and little sisters. BioShock. Yeah, you have BioShock. You have I think it can be argued that the Borderlands games, they have they have slight steampunk sort of aesthetics and inspiration. At least in the first couple of games, the first two games maybe, because they do have that sort of like Victorian aesthetic. The one issue that I have with steampunk is very mechanical. So it's technology first and magic second, if there even is magic. Like, most steampunk is just about machines and human ingenuity and crafting and stuff like that. And it is about, and I would like to point out that steampunk does have a lot of, excuse me, I need to take a sip of water. Another sip of water. I've been talking for a while. I'm sorry, guys. And so, what I will say about steampunk is there are a lot of themes of progress and human ingenuity and different things like that. Steampunk is probably like the most common um, science fantasy out there, at least a subgenre. Oh, like it's sort of a disservice to call steampunk a subgenre because it has forged its own path. But what I'm trying to say is steampunk does in fact come from science fantasy. It's just science fantasy doesn't have enough focus to really be defined or be told what is science fantasy. Like you can say science fantasy is steampunk, but at the same time, science fantasy isn't really steampunk. And Dune, I will say that Dune does have science fantasy aspects, but then again, it does veer a lot into the science portion. And even Arcane, the second, excuse me while I clear my throat, the second closest comparison to science fantasy is in fact Arcane, and people love Arcane. People love Piltover and Dawn, or for the casual watcher who doesn't play League of Legends, they love the Undercity. And that has a lot of chem tech and hex tech, which is using chemicals in order to power devices and different things, and hex tech, which is using magic. But that's still a more it's a science fantasy that veers more into the technology aspect. Whereas with Witches 13, my show, what I desire is to, if I can't have science and technology in equal measure, then at the very least, I do want to lean more towards magic. Like in this world, magic isn't outlawed. You're not gonna go to a camp for using magic. You're not gonna get killed or anything crazy like that. That's not really the story I want to tell. Like in Witches 13, everyone can use magic. Everyone can weave some kind of spell or do something cool or awesome with their power alone. Even if you don't or can't weave complex spells and create a fireball, then at the very least you can power your car. Like that's a thing that you're gonna see in the show is you can power your car in Witches 13 with magic. If your cell phone is running low on battery, then you can use magic to recharge it quickly. Like basic telekinesis is something that people learn in kindergarten where they can move objects with their mind or like with a quick flick of the wrist. It's very utility based. Society has viewed magic as a utility to make life easier or better for the little guy, better for the common man. And that's sadly something that I would have liked to have seen or explored in Ruby. Actually, yeah, Ruby can sort of be described as a another science fantasy project because it does in fact have excuse me, because Ruby does in fact have um it has a magic system. It's not magic, but it does in fact have a magic system where people do in fact use magic for different tasks and objectives. What was I saying? Dang, I just lost what I was talking about. Um, I was mentioning utility. Yes, Ruby is a show that is another Ruby RWBY. I mean, is another show with science fantasy aspects and aesthetics that, even though they say that aura and semblances aren't magic, it's sort of the remnants of magic or what was left over after the world's gods got rid of magic. Um, though what we see in Ruby is. So I will say that the issue with Ruby is they had aura as a good power system, but after the creator showrunner sadly passed away, they could no longer after Montiel passed away, they could no longer have these wild and crazy fights. They ended up having to sort of use what was left over as plot devices. So in the later seasons and the later episodes, they characters' aura wouldn't last, and they had very short fights, or they would um, cut to where you wouldn't even see a fight going on taking place. And what we also got was there were many semblances that had the potential to be just aura sub skills or like lesser abilities that were common amongst not even just hunters and huntresses, but common characters, like the ability to discern truth and lie, like Robin's semblance. That could have just been a basic aura ability. It might have been like an advanced ability that you'd have to train, but it could have been like a common ability of people's aura. Then you have like the little shockwaves that characters would, and you see this in the earlier two volumes, but when like characters would punch or like slash with their sword, you would see like an energy slash that would like fly to the sky and attack an enemy. Like cool stuff like that that could have been explored and expanded upon in later seasons. Like you could have had people, common people, like using aura to strengthen their muscles. So like you could have construction workers that they don't need hard hats or they don't need to wear gear because they have aura. Like you could have had a society where even to the negative, like where parents and children were more sort of carefree and laissez-faire, to where like, oh, my kid wants to play with a sword, he'll be fine, he has his aura. Like it's small things like that that I think go into really making a world where I wish were explored but sadly weren't. And so what I'm trying to do for my show is to have essentially like these characters, they these characters in their world, like magic is common in it. It exists everywhere. Everyone has it. It it's essentially forged and reinforced their society to where some people, they don't even think twice about it. Some people don't even carry phones because they can just cast a spell and send messages to people. Other characters, they might not even own cars because they can fly or they can teleport. subways and trains, like, yeah, they exist, but there are also special teleportation sigils that people can use if they're trying to get places faster. And I guess one could argue, okay, well, why does XYZ exist if they can just use magic? And that is something that I would, in fact, like to explore. Like, people can't use teleportation all the time, and people can't use teleportation sigils all the time because it may be too taxing, or people may get too tired from it, which is why, buses and trains and airplanes still exist. Certain things like that, it's very intricate and advanced magic that not many people can sort of resonate with. And then you also have like the older folks who may see magic as sort of like this curse, or they think magic should be illegal or it's dangerous. So they don't use magic. They try to get their kids to not use magic, but kids will be kids. Like, you don't tell me what to do, old man, I'll do what I want. And other things like that. And obviously, I can't really spend forever having solid sort of, what was I going to say? Sadly, I can't spend forever just trying to. Let me focus on this real quick because I'm losing myself. I'm losing concentration and I'm stalling on my project. I'm trying to figure out where the hole is, where I'm missing. Dang, I don't know where. Oh, it's right there. I was looking for the where the object was disconnected from. It was right there in my face. You know, sometimes you really should zoom out because you miss stuff. Or maybe it's time for me to get my eyes checked. No, I shouldn't say that. I should not be saying that. My eyes are good. They're not perfect because I'm wearing glasses, but my eyes are good. Dang it. I should be working on. What is it? Oh yeah, I gotta show you guys what I have planned for scene one. Scene one background. Mhm. Guess I can talk about scene one real quick while I'm here. Oh, it's already been an hour. Nice. I'm making some really good time. Okay, so what I have planned for this scene right here is what I'm gonna have to do. I have to draw a railing right here, and essentially what I'm gonna do for, let me turn to the vector tool, is I'm going to double the length, and so as this railing is moving, you're going to see this railing in the background slowly move as well. And it's going to be moving this way. So from here to here slowly. I also have some buildings in the background. I think what I can do is I'll probably have just some all black buildings in the far back to sell the illusion of depth, and then I'll have maybe a couple buildings in the front here that are going to be more detailed. And this, accidentally clicked something I wasn't supposed to. And then this building right here is going to be, I wouldn't say extremely detailed, but even more detailed. And I'm also going to have like a floating island or two in the way back that is slowly moving as the character moves. And so that's going to be a thing to sort of sell the character moving. I will say that, so the shift from this scene to this scene won't be that difficult because that's mainly just going to be a scaling issue. However, I think what is going to be hard for me is this transition from here to here. That is going to be very detailed. And so, what I may end up doing, what I may end up animating, is probably just some sort of motion blur or some sort of like smear frame. If you see in many animations, what they'll do is when the character is moving or panning, essentially you don't see actual shapes or figures, you just see like grays, like a gray background with a few like lightly colored or sparsely colored objects that like hop across the frame or speed past the frame to sort of sell the illusion of speed and a scene change. So I can do that for this motion right here. And then for sort of these few frames right here, now from this frame to about here, that's more of a zoom in. Let me zoom in. Let me actually zoom in for you guys while I talk about the zooming. So from about this frame to right here, that's actually a zoom in. So I can have a few buildings that get bigger. And so what's gonna happen for this scene onward is you're actually gonna see these buildings rise and grow. So throughout seconds 7 to 10, there's gonna be this slow rise of background elements. And just looking at it right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is gonna be about 9 buildings. I have 2 floating islands in the background. And I'm thinking that I might paint a sun probably right here. That is just going to be a stock image. It's not going to grow or anything. You've already seen 2. You've already seen scene 2. I had to actually add these buildings. This is the raw footage that I uploaded to my channel. This is the raw footage I had uploaded to my channel a few days ago. So essentially what happened is After Effects, there was some difficulty with After Effects. I tried to put this footage and my other elements in the program, but it didn't take. What ended up happening is it said that my files were uncompatible. When I start jumbling my words, that's when I know I need to drink some water. So essentially what happened is After Effects didn't take my Flash files. And usually that's not the case. What's usually supposed to happen is I'm supposed to easily be able to put Flash files into After Effects so that I can composite it and add different effects like shadows, blurs, different things like that, shading. Sadly, that did not work out for me. Sadly, that did not happen. So I had to put all of my elements in Animate, and I'm gonna see how I can composite in Adobe Animate if it's messy or if it doesn't look that good. Then more than likely I'm probably just gonna download an older version of After Effects and then put my footage through there and composite it through there. Because what I tried to do originally was I tried to export my footage. Sadly, what happened is not only did I get just a black video, but I also got but none of my different cars and other layers exported 2 layers. And then I spent like maybe half an hour trying to look online to see what footage file can I export to get different layers. To keep my raw layers, there wasn't an option, so then I say, you know what, I'll just put all of my objects in Adobe Animate. So that's what I'm working with there. Now for this scene, I do have some coloring to do, and that's been what this live stream is about, is me coloring these different objects and characters. What I can do, and I do actually have some of this stuff hidden. I hid some stuff. One thing is where is that's not it. I'll just hide that in my right. What is this file? Wrong file. What is this? Yeah, the different props and stuff. So now, what I'm gonna do how do I make that red go away? I think there's a layer I forgot to hit. Okay. So for this layer, this is another establishing shot, or sort of like settings layer, where I show you guys the environment that the character is in. So I'm planning on making the actual road and the sidewalks their own objects. And then afterwards, these different buildings I'm going to have as their own objects. So what I'll probably do is this building right here, it'll be its own object. I'll draw that in Photoshop. There's supposed to be a building right here that can be its own object. Behind it is going to be like a tree that sort of pokes out. You also have like different shrubs and bushes right here that will be their own objects. I do think that So what I can do is with this cluster of buildings over here, they might just be lightly detailed. But then these buildings over here, they may just be black and various colors of gray. Whereas these floating islands up here, they can be either, they may be gray, but I might have, no, I think I should give them some color because they're sort of their own thing. Oh, and hello. I see I have 3 watchers. So, hello. How are you all doing this fine day, this fine Friday? How have you been? It's glad to see you all. It's glad to meet you all. I'm just, for those of you just approaching, just getting in here, I am working on a teaser trailer for a show that I plan to make a pilot of at a later date. And for the past few minutes, I've just been talking about the different design things and sort of setting drawings that I'm going to be doing. And I'm just breaking up my animation right now. So I guess I better get back into coloring. Let me go right here. Now for the pants, I think I should give him a splash of color, so I'll probably make his pants like a blue color. Uh-oh. Let's see here. So what's a nice color? I'll give him like a palish blue. Ooh, 4 watchers now. Hello. How's everyone's day been going? Will that do? Let's see what this looks like. Didn't have it selected. That's a white shirt and blue pants. That's quite the combination. I may go for something a bit lighter and paler. That looks somewhat better. This dude just looks freaking jacked up. I am so sorry you guys have to see this. His shoes. I'll probably go for like a lighter brown because I do want to offset with the color of. Actually, why'd they have to be brown? I could probably just give him like some nice sneakers, like maybe a black sneaker. I don't think they make green sneakers, do they? That wouldn't even mesh up with his character. Yellow would be too bright. If he has a white shirt and blue pants, and I'm thinking another cooler color would work well with him. Let's see. I guess I'm going with like a lighter orange, maybe. That would be nice. Actually, I should probably go like even lighter for the soles. That's usually how shoes are made, is that they have lighter soles. Oh, now I have 6 people. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? This has been a fine stream. I actually think I'm streaming longer than usual. I usually stop at like an hour 15 minutes, an hour 16 minutes. But I'm glad. Sadly, someone did leave, but what can you do? Um, yeah. I mean, for those of you getting in here, I've just been talking and I've been pretty much chilling. Not much to do on a Friday. Let's see here. And yeah, I think everything is. Well, then, I guess sadly, I do have to go. I think I'm definitely going to work on this a bit more off stream, but I am glad to have people come in, even if it's at the tail end, people coming in and watching me. That's always a fun thing. That's always a nice thing to have. But just because I end the stream doesn't mean you guys can't go back and rewatch a little bit. Earlier in the stream, I did in fact talk about like different design elements. I talked a bit about science fantasy and what I wanted to do with that. And you can also check out some of my old streams. I have an entire playlist that is just my previous art streams. But anyway, I do think I should go right about now. I've kept you guys for too long. But please rewatch some of my old streams. And not just my streams, watch some of my animations as well and other things that I've worked on. Anyway, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share even if you want to. Anyway, this has been Owoh's Corner, my own little corner of art. I'll see you guys in my next video or stream. I stream Tuesdays and Fridays around noontime. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.